Chapter 1 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda, the Magnificent Leap. Om Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Om Apadamahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokaviram Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Hanuman looked like a wild bull with his powerful neck stretched to the full and looking upwards. He was to achieve what no one had till then. He wandered about the mountain top with his powerful strides, and he frightened all the animals there. The snakes and wild animals which had been dwelling in the mountain were startled and rushed out in panic as the mountain shuddered under him. Mahendra, which was rich in minerals, was of different hues. There seemed to be a carpet under the feet of Hanuman, a carpet woven of different colors, black and white, red, blue, yellow, and the blush pink of the lotus. The mountain was also the home of yakshas and kinnaras. Elephants were roaming about in large numbers, and Hanuman had disturbed them all from their places, which had been secured till then. He saluted the gods presiding over the quarters, Surya, Indra, Vayu, and Brahma. He then turned to the east and he saluted his father, Vayu. With his mind he saluted the valiant brothers, Rama and Lakshmana. He made obeisance to the seas and to the rivers. Hanuman embraced his companions and made up his mind to set out on the memorable journey. The journey in quest of Sita, who had been captured by Ravana. The monkeys wished him a safe return, and Hanuman walked to the spot which was wide and open. He stood there facing the south. He had now grown enormous in size. He pressed hard on the mountain to gather momentum before he could take the leap. The mountain, which is said to be firm in the midst of storms and tempests, shook under the impact of his huge feet. The trees were all denuded of their flowers, and the entire slope was a glorious sight, since there was nothing but flowers covering them. The rocks cracked under his feet, and smoke was seen to emanate from the cracks formed in the rocks. The animals were crying out in fear, and the sound filled the four quarters. Serpents were spitting virulent poison, and the rocks were burning because of the poisons. Even the rishis who were there were afraid to stay on the hill, and they left it in a hurry, as also the Vidyadharas. They flew into the sky and stood watching the great Hanuman while he prepared himself to take the leap. He shook himself and roared, and it was like the rumbling of a thunder cloud. He swung his large tail in the air, and the tail looked like an immense snake pulled by Garuda. He placed his two hands on the surface of the rock on which he stood. He shrunk his waist and folded his legs. He then thrust out his neck, and so he stood poised for the flight into the air. He looked far and held his breath. He turned to the monkeys and said, "I will go straight to Lanka as an arrow which is released from the bow of Rama. If I do not find Sita there, I will go to the heavens and look for her there. If she is not found even there, I will return to Lanka and bring Ravana with me, bound hand and foot. I will somehow return with success. I may even uproot the city and bring it with me. I will succeed." Hanuman was so confident that he had no doubt about his ability to find Sita. Thinking that he was Garuda himself, the great Hanuman jumped up with great force. Because of the speed of his course, the trees on the mountain were pulled up with their roots. With the flowering trees rushing along with him, Hanuman entered the skies. The trees went with him some distance, and it seemed as though they were well-wishers who went with him some distance to make the journey fruitful. The sea was now a mass of flowers from the trees which had fallen into it after accompanying the great Hanuman some distance. The sea was like the sky which is lit up by myriads of stars. Hanuman coursed through the sky like a thunder cloud driven by the air. His arms were like twin snakes, and it appeared as though he would drink the sky with his large mouth, and people from the celestial regions collected in the sky to see the magnificent sight. The very sea was in an uproar caused by the speed with which Hanuman was passing by. His shadow was cast on the waters of the sea, and the shadows was 10 yojanas in breadth and 30 yojanas in length. He seemed to be a mountain which was flying in the air during the days before Indra cut off their wings. Only this mountain had no wings. He looked like the moon in a clouded sky as he plunged into the clusters of clouds which were trailing in the sky. Flowers rained on him from the heavens. Since the Devas were eager to have success attending on the mission of Hanuman, the sun did not hurt him with his scorching rays, and Vayu caressed him with his soft breeze. While he was thus storming through the air, the king of the oceans thought of honoring this messenger of Rama. He respected the kings of the race of Ikshvaku, and he thought, I owe my very existence to the Sagara princess, and this Hanuman is trying to help a scion of that race. I must provide a halting place for him. Having rested a while, he can easily cover the remaining distance. He called for the mountain Mainaka, which was submerged in the sea. He said, You are able to grow large or small. I ask you now to grow larger and larger. Hanuman is now flying in the air with the desire to reach Lanka. He is going on a mission to help Rama. You and I are indebted to his ancestors, and it is but meet that we should remember it. You must rise up to the surface and provide a resting place for Hanuman. After he has refreshed himself, let him go on with his journey. So be it, said Mainaka, and rose out of the sea. Its peak was golden and had earned for the mountain the name Hiranya Nabha. Like the sun newly rising out of the clouds, the mountain rose out of the waters of the sea and stood up with its golden peak, glowing golden in the light of the sun. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman. मनोजवं मारततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूतमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं मनसा स्मरामि श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि. श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं रामनाम वरानने. May Lord Rama bless all of us on this divine day of his birthday, Ramanavami. Jai Shri Ram. Shri Ramar Pranamastu. Chapter 1, Part 2 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda, the magnificent leap. Apadamahattaram dataram sarvasampadam lokabhiramam Shriram bhuyo bhuyo namamyaham. When Hanuman saw the mountain emerge thus out of the sea, he thought that it was an obstacle in his path, and with his immense chest, he pushed the mountain aside. The soul of the hill took up a form and stood on the peak of the hill and said, Noble Hanuman, we are admiring the stupendous task you have undertaken and the manner in which you are executing it. The Lord of the Seas asked me to rise up and provide a resting place for you. He has a great respect for the kings of the race of the sun. He wanted to help you and thus show his affection for Rama and you. Please relax on top of me for a while, and you can go on after a pause. I owe a debt of gratitude to your father. He saved me from the Vajra of Indra by pushing me into the sea. Accept my hospitality." Hanuman said, "I am touched by your affection for Rama and for me. You have entertained me with your words, and that is enough. I am in a hurry, and time is of the utmost importance. I must not tarry. I have taken an oath that I will not rest until I accomplish what I have undertaken. I will proceed on my journey and complete my task." He took leave of the mountain with a smile and went on with his flight across the sea. He was soon high in the heavens, and he was pursuing the path of his father. The Devas who were watching Hanuman were trying to test if obstacles on the way would deter the course of Hanuman. They summoned Surasa, the mother of the serpents, and said, "Hanuman is trying to cross the sea with a desire to reach Lanka. We want you to assume the shape of a big Rakshasi and bar his way. We wish to see how he will tackle this unforeseen situation and how he is going to circumvent it." She did as she was bid, and soon Hanuman found himself accosted by this fierce woman who stood in his path in the air. She said, "Happily, I have found a prey for my hunger now. You are the gift of the gods to me, I think. Enter my mouth and be my food." Hanuman folded his palms together and said, "I am going on a vital mission. I cannot do what you ask me to. When I come back from my destination, I will certainly oblige you and enter your mouth. Do not stand in my way." She refused him his plea and said, "This is a boon granted to me by Brahma that no one can pass me by without first entering my mouth." And suiting the word to the action, she opened her mouth very wide. Hanuman lost his patience and said, "Open your mouth as large as you can so that you can accommodate me." As her mouth grew larger, he became bigger and larger too. And when her mouth grew gradually to the size of 100 yojanas, Hanuman contracted his body to the size of a thumb. He entered the mouth of the Rakshasi and came out, and it all happened within a matter of a moment. He resumed his original form and said, "Farewell to you. I have entered your mouth, and I have come out. Your boon from Brahma is not false. Let me go now." Surasa was pleased with him and said, "May your journey be fruitful. May you achieve your end." Hanuman continued his journey in the air. He was flying high now. It was the path of the birds, and it was full of raindrops. The rishis like Tumbaru used the path, and the devas would often frequent it. On that heavenly track, Hanuman flew, and his mind was set on one thing: to reach Ravana's city Lanka as soon as he could, and to look for Sita, the queen of Rama. There was a Rakshasi by name Simhika who saw him pass by. She desired to eat him up. She grasped his shadow and pulled it towards her. Hanuman felt the pull and looked around to find out what was happening. He saw the dreadful form of Simhika rising out of the sea. He realized that this was the impediment in his path. He grew in size, and she opened her mouth at once, and it reached from the waters to the skies. From where he was, Hanuman could see into her mouth, and contracting himself suddenly, he leaped into her mouth like the sudden fall of Indra's Vajra. He killed her and quickly returned to where he was. Growing back to his old size, he travelled as though nothing had happened. Like Garuda, he flew straight and smooth. He had covered most of the distance. The 100 yojanas had diminished now to a much smaller number. Hanuman cast his eyes around, and he saw trees and forest, which indicated that he was nearing land. He saw the gardens which grew on the mountain by name Malaya. He passed several small rivers and their tributaries, and while nearly at the end of his journey, he told himself, "This form of mine is too big. If I land thus in Lanka, the Rakshasas will be curious about me, and it will not be possible for me to enter the city without being noticed." Hanuman made himself small and insignificant. He looked like a Gnani who, having shed all moha, could now realize the Atman. I repeat, he looked like a Gnani who, having shed all moha, could now realize the Atman. He was now almost a dwarf, just 3 foot in height. He reached the opposite shore of the sea. He landed on the peak of a hill by name Lambha. From there, he had the first glimpse of Lanka. Hanuman had crossed the sea, which was 100 yojanas wide, and he had reached the other shore. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Ram. Apadamahartaram dataram sarvasampadam lokaviramam Shri Ramam bhuyo bhuyo namamyam. Shri Rama Rama Rame Tirame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Puranane. Om Shri Ramar Panamast. Chapter 2 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda. Hanuman enters Lanka. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. The impossible had been achieved, and Hanuman was not even aware of his magnificent accomplishment. He stood on the peak of the hill on which he had landed and cast his eyes towards Lanka. It was situated on top of the hill by name Trikuta. He decided to get a closer view, and he walked through the flowering trees and forests. The ground was soft and green, covered with luscious grass, and the perfume of flowers was borne by the passing breeze. He looked at Lanka and saw that it was surrounded on all sides by trees of every description. He went nearer, and he could see the mansions which were glittering in the evening light. He also saw the guards to the city. Hanuman could see the wide and fearful moat which was surrounding the city on all sides. From where he was, Hanuman could see the wide roads which were clean and white, and he thought that Lanka would be just as beautiful as Amaravati, the city of Indra. Situated as it was on top of a hill, the city gave the impression that it was floating in the air. Hanuman was lost in thought as he walked slowly towards the city. He had reached the northern gates of Lanka, and he saw the fierce Rakshasa who were guarding it. Hanuman told himself, "The city is so well guarded that it will not be possible to enter it even if all the Vanaras are able to come here. Even the Devas will not be able to conquer Lanka. Guarded as it is so well, even Rama with his powerful arms will find it hard to enter the city. Rakshasas are not amenable to reason, nor will they be moved by soft speeches. All the tactics employed in warfare will be ineffectual in this case. As for the distance I have covered today, only 4 of my breed can manage it. Angada the prince, Neela, my king Sugriva, and myself. But let me not despair. I will first make sure if Sita is alive or dead. I will search for her first and then decide on my future course of action." He was so absorbed in thought for a while, and then he thought, "It is not possible for me to enter the city with this big form. The guards are only too alert, and they are all strong and powerful. I must enter the city assuming a very small and insignificant size. I must deceive the guards and enter the city with a view to search for Sita." For a while, Hanuman was quite depressed since he did not know how to set about looking for her. "What method am I to adopt?" he asked himself. "Rama's aim should not be futile. How can I find Sita, and will it be possible for me to see her alone and give her Rama's message? It has been said that even great tasks get destroyed like darkness before the sun if it is entrusted to one who is lacking in firmness and determination. Even if one is not able to discriminate between what should be done and what should not be, still, if a person is foolish enough to consider himself to be all-knowing, the enterprise will all go wrong. I am now wondering how I am to set about the task I have undertaken. I should act in such a way that nothing goes wrong. Nothing should be spoiled because of my action. If I am discovered by the guards, then the crossing of the sea will be just a waste, and the desire of Rama to kill Ravana will not be accomplished. Even if I don the guise of a Rakshasa, it will be foolish, since they will surely see through my disguise. How can I get through with this body of a monkey? As for this city, even my father is not able to enter it without the permission of the king. If I am seen now, it will be the end of me. And what is more, Rama will have to go back to Ayodhya without Sita. Considering everything, I will wait till nightfall and then decide what I should do. It is wise to stay here where I am till then. I will then make myself as small as possible and enter Lanka. The city will be asleep and I will not be seen by anyone. I can search for Sita then. Hanuman sat on the peak of the hill and waited for the sun to set. When darkness fell, he roused himself and shrunk his body to the size of a small kitten. He went to the gates of Lanka and tried to enter it. He could see the glorious city from outside. It was like the city of Gandharvas. Precious stones gleamed everywhere, and pearls and corals were used on the pillars which held up the magnificent mansions which were innumerable. Impatiently he waited for the night to advance so that he could enter the city without drawing attention. The sun had set long ago, and the moon, as though to help him in his search, appeared in the sky, accompanied by myriads of stars. The moon looked just like a swan in a pond filled with lotuses, and he was glad that the night had passed two jamas. Lanka was protected by a high wall, and Hanuman hurried towards it. He started spellbound at the beautiful city spread out like a piece of rich brocade. It only confirmed his earlier thought that the city was impenetrable by the strongest of forces. He considered his warriors, and he could count on his fingers those powerful enough to attempt the tasks of penetrating into Lanka. Kumuda, Angada, Sushena, Mainda, Dvividha, Sugriva, Kushaparva, Jambavan, Ketumala, and himself were the only possibilities. They were worthy enough to undertake the task. Rama and Lakshmana were there to be with them, and what could a handful of them do against this formidable army? Hanuman was trying to enter the city when the guardian of the city, a goddess, accosted him. She stood in front of him and asked him, "Who are you? You seem to be a monkey. Why have you come here? Tell me the truth, or else you will lose your life. This Lanka is protected on all sides by the guards of Ravana, and it is not possible for anyone to enter the city." Hanuman spoke very humbly and said, "I will tell you, but tell me who you are. You are trying to frighten me with your looks and your voice and with your words. Why do you stand at the gateway of the city?" The goddess was furious with him. She said, "I am here to obey the commands of the Rakshasa king Ravana. I am guarding the city, and my name is Lankini. You cannot ignore me and enter the gates. I am going to kill you." Unruffled by the apparition, which he did not expect, Hanuman said, "The beauty of the city is captivating. I wish to see the city entirely. I have come to see Lanka and its beauties. She was not mollified by his gentle manner of speaking. She said, "You stupid little monkey, unless you fight with me and vanquish me, you cannot enter Lanka." Hanuman persisted and said, "I will just see the city and go away. I have not come to stay." She would not listen to him. With her palm, she took aim and hit him in the face. Hanuman was really angry now. He closed his eyes and tightened the fingers on his left hand, and he hit her with his powerful fist. He did not display all his anger and all his strength, since she was a woman. She fell down the moment she was hit. Overcome with fright and pain and humiliation, she said, "I have been vanquished by you. I am the guardian angel of this city. I will tell you about the boon which had been granted to me by Brahma. He had told me that I would be invincible. But when a monkey conquers you by his might, then you must realize that the end of the Rakshasas has come." With the words of Brahma, the time he spoke of has come. Because of Sita, the end of the Rakshasas headed by Ravana is drawing near. You are at liberty to enter Lanka. You can do what you wish to. I know that you have come in search of Sita. I will not stand in your way anymore. Lankini, the guardian angel of the city of Lanka, vanished from there and left the city forever. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Ram, Shri Rama Rama Rameti, Rame Rame Manurame, Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varanane, Manojavam Maratatullya Regam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam, Vatatmajam Vanarayuta Mukyam, Shri Ramadutam Shirasa Namami, Shri Ramadutam Manasa Smarami, Shri Ramadutam Charanamaham Prabhadye. Om Shri Ramarpanamastu. Chapter 3 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda. Lanka. Apadamahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokadiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Hanuman had got rid of the presiding deity of Lanka. He crossed the high wall which surrounded the city. He placed his left foot first when he landed in Lanka. That was the convention, to use the left foot while entering the house of an enemy or his country. Boldly, he walked through the streets which were decorated with pearls and flowers. It was a beautiful city. The music made by the drums and bugles on the one hand, and the tinkling of bells in the windows of the mansions on the other, was pleasing to the ear. It was well built with an eye to artistic perfection, and wherever his eyes were cast, Hanuman saw beauty and nothing but beauty. He was greatly impressed by the wealth of Ravana and the tastefully decorated city which was his. Hanuman jumped on the terraces of the houses and went from one house to the next, and each was different from the other. Music reached his ears from everywhere. The tinkle of the anklets, the rustle of silks, and the slight noises made by the ornaments worn by the women could be heard everywhere. In between could be heard the sonorous music made by the recital of the Vedas. He could see the section of Ravana's army which stood guard over the city during the night. They were carrying weapons of all types, and it was frightful to imagine the fate of an intruder if he were caught. Hanuman went from house to house, mansion to mansion, until he finally arrived at what he guessed to be the palace of Ravana, the lord of the land. It was like a portion of heaven itself, which had been placed on the earth for the pleasure of the king of Rakshasas. The neighing of the horses, the impatient pawing of their hoofs on the ground, the music made by the instruments, greeted Hanuman, who had become smaller than a kitten in size. He was not noticed, and quietly he entered the Antapura of Ravana through the doorway, which was exquisitely wrought with gold and inlaid with pearls, corals, and gems. The scent of incense assailed him as he entered the palace. The moon had reached the zenith now. He had spread his silvery radiance on the earth below, and the sleeping city was bathed in moonlight. Hanuman stood for a moment contemplating the beauty of the moon. He looked like a swan captive in a silver cage, like a glorious lion in his cave on the Mandara mountain, like a warrior seated high on the back of a proud elephant. The moon was casting its rays on the earth, the moon whose beauty was like that of the Mandara mountain, like that of the ocean in the evenings, like the soft beauty of the lotus. The mist did not obscure him, and he was shining with all his radiance. Most of the inmates were under the influence of drugged sleep. They had evidently partaken of wine. Their abandon was amusing and at the same time pathetic. Many of them had their women by their sides, and they seemed to be very beautiful. Hanuman scanned their faces eagerly, and even though they were beautiful, all of them, not one of them was Sita. He knew that Sita was more beautiful than all of them, and in his mind's eye, he had created a picture of her in accordance with the description given by Rama. The women he was seeing now were not like her. Hanuman went inside the palace of Ravana, and he had to be careful not to be seen by anyone. The armed guards were like lions guarding a forest, and into that domain entered Hanuman with careful steps. To him, the palace seemed to be the ornament of the city of Lanka, so exquisitely was it constructed. His fear of being discovered was gone since he had come inside and he had reached the mansion of the king. The king's house was glowing like the sun because of the glow from the gems and gold which were to be found everywhere. The seats, couches, beds, and other articles were all inlaid with gold and set with gems. Ivory and sandalwood were used to making most of them. Hanuman was amazed at the prosperity which was evident from the houses he had visited and the luxury there. As he walked, Hanuman's eyes lighted on the Pushpaka Vimana which he had heard had been brought by Ravana to Lanka after he had vanquished Kubera. Hanuman went from place to place and from Antapura to Antapura and looked in vain for Sita. All the wealth of Kubera was to be found in the city of Lanka, and Hanuman wondered if it was heaven or a city of the Gandharvas which he had been seeing all the while. Hundreds and thousands of beautiful women were sleeping there, and he scanned every one of their faces, and he was sure that Sita was not there. The women were all brought by Ravana during his many encounters with Gandharvas and Nagas and Kinnaras, and every one of the women was in love with Ravana. There was some he had brought forcibly, but they had succumbed to his charms in course of time. Hanuman was feeling sorry for Ravana, who had so many women in his harem and who could have been happy with all of them. He had instead courted death by wanting the wife of Rama. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattvalyam Rama Nama Varanane. Om Shri Ramar Pranamaste. Chapter 4 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda. Hanuman sees Mandodari. Apada Mahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokaviramam Shriramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyam. While he was wandering around, Hanuman's eyes rested on a cot made of crystal, ivory, sandal and gold. It was unbelievably beautiful, and he stood for a long time savoring the beauty of the workmanship. On one side of it, he could see a white umbrella and other insignia of royalty. He went closer and saw Ravana sleeping on the cot. He was dark like a rain cloud. Golden pendants adorned his ears. His arms were long and they were powerful looking. His garments were full of gold lace, and the scent of the sandal paste, which had been rubbed on his chest and his arms, filled the room. Like a sunset cloud which is streaked with lightning, Ravana was looking magnificent with the ornaments he was wearing. He was extremely good looking, and Hanuman went near him. He then withdrew a few steps as he would from a serpent which was hissing in anger. He looked again at Ravana from a distance. His huge arms lay prone on the white bed, and they were mighty. His broad chest was partly covered by the spotless white silk, and his breath was even and regular, indicating that he was fast asleep. He saw the wives of the king also there. They were all beautiful, and each was more beautiful than the other. They surrounded the king, and they were fast asleep too. As he was scanning their faces, Hanuman saw a woman sleeping on a separate bed, apart from all of them. His curiosity was kindled. He went near her. She was wearing jewels made of pearls and gems, but her beauty was such that she needed no ornaments to enhance it. She was Mandodari, the queen of Ravana. Hanuman looked at her fair skin which was golden in hue, her unearthly beauty, and to him it seemed as though Sita had been found. He clapped his shoulders with joy, kissed his tail, jumped around, ran hither and thither, and climbed the pillars and jumped down. His exuberance was unbearable, and Hanuman decided that he had seen Sita. After a while, however, Hanuman thought about it, and he knew that he was in the wrong. He told himself, "That noble lady will not sleep, parted as she is from Rama. She will not eat, and her mind will not be interested in wearing jewels or silken garments. She will not touch wine, and as for her being found in Ravana's harem, the very thought is sinful. This beautiful woman is someone else." Hanuman wandered about in despondence all over the palace, and he saw the kitchen and the storehouse of wine. Go where he would, he encountered hundreds of women, and he was unhappy because he was looking for Sita and could not find her. He was also unhappy because it seemed to him that he should not be looking at women who were sleeping with so much abandon. He told himself, "It is a sin for me to cast my eyes on the wives of the Rakshasa king. I have never once looked at women with lustful eyes." He pondered for a moment and told himself, "I am not moved by the sight of these women, and my senses are unaffected. I have seen them in different positions and embarrassing poses, but my mind is not dwelling on the sight of them at all. I can see that it is the mind which controls the senses, and for me, the mind is firm, and so I have incurred no sin. And again, to look for a woman, I have to search only in the midst of women. My mind is not involved, and I am unaffected by the beauty of these women." He pursued his search, and still Sita was not to be found. He came out of the palace and went again inside to search anew for her. He looked for her in the flowered arbors in the garden and in summer houses. She was not seen anywhere. He was now almost certain that Sita was not alive. He thought, "She is the symbol of chastity, and unable to bear the oppression of the Rakshasa, she must have been terrified. She must have preferred to be dead. Or perhaps Ravana killed her since she had refused his attentions. I have looked everywhere, and she is not to be seen. I have failed in my mission. When I go back, all the Vanaras will crowd crowd round me and ask me, "What did you do in Lanka? Tell us what you have achieved." What am I to say of them? If I fail them, they will all die, as was decided earlier. They will censure me in their hearts, and Angada with Jambavan will not respect me anymore. I must not give in to this weakness in the mind. The only way to fight weakness is to stand firm and refuse to be oppressed by depression. It is this firmness which will make a man keep on trying until he succeeds. I will not let my mind lose its firmness. I will pursue the quest until I find her. He went in and out of thousands of mansions, large and small. He searched in the gardens and pleasure houses and in the arbors covered with creepers. In the palace of Ravana there was not an inch of ground which he had not covered, and yet Sita could not be seen. Hanuman was more and more convinced that Sita was dead. He thought, Sampati told us in no uncertain terms that Sita is here, and yet I have not found her. There is no place which I have left out. Perhaps on the way, when Ravana brought her, she slipped from his grasp and fell down dead. Perhaps her heart stopped in sheer terror when she realized the dread fate which awaited her in the shape of Ravana. Horrified at the thought that Ravana had touched her with his filthy hands, she has killed herself. Thinking on the charming face of her lord Rama, she must have killed herself. Or perhaps she is a captive in some secret cell in Ravana's mansion and is bemoaning her fate. I do not know what I should do now. To go back and tell Rama this piece of news will be unwise, and yet to hold back the truth is also wrong. Wherever I look, there does not seem to be even a single ray of hope. Hanuman was sitting on top of a pillar, and he was in the depths of despair. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Ram. Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattuliyam Ramanama Varanane. Om Shri Ramarpanamastu. Chapter 4, Part 2 of Ramayana's Sundara Kanda. Hanuman sees Mandodari. Apadamahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Hanuman thought again. I must think again and act. I should not go back without knowing the fate of Sita. If I go back with failure writ on my face, my companions will be heartbroken. When I acquaint them and then my king and Rama that Sita could not be found, what will they say? Rama will give up his life. He will not find anything worth living, for once Sita is dead. With him will die Lakshmana. This will kill Bharata and also Shatrughna. With their sons dead, how can the queen mothers live? They will be dead too. My king will be unhappy at his inability to keep his promise to Rama, and that may make him give up his life. With him will Ruma die and Tara too. After the death of Tara, Angada will have no wish to leave. Because of me, so many deaths will take place. I must not allow it. I will not go back to Kishkinda without news of Sita. If I stay here, they will leave in hopes of some news, and that will be better than my going back. I will vanish from here and adopt sannyasa. I will go far away and throw myself into a blazing fire prepared by myself. Prayopavesha is a better way, perhaps, to cast away one's life. It has been sanctioned by the rishis, but they say it is a sin to kill oneself. I do not know what I should do. I will kill Ravana, irrespective of whether I find Sita or not. Or I will carry him and leave him in the presence of Rama. Let him avenge the death of his wife. Hanuman was looking around all the time, trying to see if he had left out any place which should have been searched. Hanuman saw a garden at some distance. He said, There seems to be an Ashokavana nearby, and it is full of large trees. I have not looked for her there. I will do so now. Suddenly, some strange feeling of happiness was filling his heart, and he felt that he might see her there. He invoked the 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, the 12 Adityas, and the 7 Maruts, and with great humility he saluted them. With an effort of the will, he suppressed the feelings of depression which had been, till then, crowding his mind. He first saluted Rama and Lakshmana and then Sita. He prayed to Indra, Yama, Vayu, the sun and moon, and he thought of his king Sugriva. He looked for the path which would lead to the Ashokavana. He felt that he might find success there. He went towards it. He saw the Vana and told himself, "This Ashokavana has to be searched now. Even the trees seem to be well cared for. The breeze is soft and gentle, and I have decreased the size of my body to the utmost. May the gods be with me in this last attempt of mine. I am desperate. I hope to see the face of that noblest of women, the face as charming as the moon. She is the captive of the cruel Rakshasa, and it is imperative that I find her." Hanuman thought of Sita in his mind, and with a leap ascended the high wall which surrounded the palace of Ravana. Standing on top of the wall, he saw the garden, and he could discern the many different trees which abound there. Like an arrow which had been released from a bow, he leaped straight towards the Ashokavana. He was there in no time. It was a very beautiful garden, and evidently it was the favorite place of the king, since it was maintained with great care. Trees of all types, common trees and rare ones too, were growing there. Flowers of every description and birds of all kinds were there. Deer were there in plenty, and other tame animals. Peacocks and quails could be found on the trees, and Hanuman saw it all with wonderment. He had never seen the like of it before. The sleeping birds were disturbed by his entrance into the garden. They beat their wings in fear, and the flowers on the trees fell to the ground. He seemed like a small hillock covered with flowers. He seemed like a small hillock covered with flowers. He knew that the night was passing only too soon, and he hurried with his search. Trees were shook and creepers were pulled apart. There was a small hill nearby, and down the hill flowed a small rivulet. He saw several ponds filled with water which seemed to be cool and clear, and lotuses were floating on the surfaces. The ponds had banks covered with white sand, and the steps leading to them were carved exquisitely. The garden had been designed by Vishwakarma. He went on with his search. He came to the shade of a Shimshupa tree. Its branches were hanging low, and it was surrounded by several creepers, and under it was erected a small platform richly carved. Hanuman climbed on to the Shimshupa tree and decided to stay there. It concealed a small frame, and from its top he could see quite far. Expecting to see Sita, Hanuman sat on the tree well concealed by the leaves and the branches. His eyes were trained to the ground, and he was waiting for Sita to appear. He sat patiently, waiting for the night to pass. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Sita Ram, Jai Shri Hanuman. आपादमहर्तारं धातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहं. श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं रामनाम वरानने. ओम श्रीरामार्पणमस्तु.